Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast. It's the Group of Five Deep Dive. I'm Mike Calabrese, joined as always by Mike Iannello. We're going to get into everything that we like here in the Week 10 card.
The Big Bets on Campus podcast.
All right, here we go.
By Mike Iannello, we're going to get into everything that we like here in the Week 10 card. I know we're being unfairly punished with all this early week Conference USA action. We had some bets that we probably would have brought to the pod, but they're either being played right now or they'll be playing, very quickly after you listen to this tomorrow. So we're trying our best to give you plays that are actually live. Not going to pat ourselves on the back for getting picks in the past correct, although I am being punished severely for having any gambling interest in Sam Houston La Tech. It is 3-2 at halftime of that game. Just an absolute stinker. Maction cannot get back here fast enough to save our weeknights. What are your thoughts on Conference USA? I think they're a little overextended here. I understand they're going for the TV exposure. I've lauded them for that. I think it's a good decision to get more eyeballs on their teams. But
is it though?
When they're playing like this, who wants to watch?
Is it? Yeah. Is it a good idea to get more exposure? I'm not so sure. I'm with you. We're the G5 guys. We're always going to stand on the table for them. I'm so glad I don't have to watch it. Like, I have Louisiana on my computer because I was watching the Yankee game, and it's like, dude, these games are so bad. We did get the Liberty upset last week, which was exciting. Just to kind of, for the college football playoff picture, just to not have to worry about them crashing the dance. And then, I'm obviously still ice cold. So I think it's a good metaphor for our listeners. I told you, yeah, Liberty's due, but I want to see it before I jump on board. People might want to do the same thing with me. Our listeners are the best. They're so loyal. I keep getting so many tweets being like, keep your head up, you're due. I agree, I'm due, but it's not coming. So maybe see a week before you start tailing me again. But hey, new month, new me. October, spooky season's over. Hopefully November will be a little better. It was the worst month I've ever had in any sport. So hopefully November will be a little better for me.
I mean, my best bet cashed on Saturday, that over in the North Texas game. It seemed like it may be in jeopardy. They were basically rolling Chandler Morris out there. He basically dribbled a few passes out to the perimeter because he had a banged up shoulder. I was like, am I really going to lose it on this? But then they end up scoring and comfortably going over the total. But then Butch killed my vibe. Just absolute melt by Arkansas State, up 20 at halftime, and they win by 3 against Troy. That was brutal. So you know what gets me in a better mood after a week like that? Just getting right back on the horse. Let's throw out first our G5 heroes to feel good, get the momentum going, get some positivity here as we like to do. I'm going to start with the head coach of the Kennesaw State Owls, Brian Bohannon. He built this effing thing from the ground up. He's literally the only coach in program history. If you don't love that and what he accomplished, not only getting the win, their first of the season, but then also taking down Liberty in the process. I know that I was on the wrong side against the spread. That's just one unit. If that's what I had to give up to the gambling gods to get rid of Liberty, I'm happy to do it.
Quick question. At what point in the game did you start rooting for the Kennesaw outright win?
It's probably after the first full possession of the second half for Liberty, where they're continuing to screw around. So I was like, the hell with this team. I want this team to get drilled. And then down the stretch, there was just so many, there's just something wrong with this particular offense, this team. I can't put my finger on it. They go through the motions a little bit. They look like Salter looks like he's wearing ankle weights. Like he's just not as quick. He doesn't want to run when it's available. There's just something, all the vibes, as the kids would say, are off with this Flames team. But I'm going to mention them in short order here in the pod. So I won't dump too much on them because I need them at least to play some good offensive football. But yeah, just a shout out to Bohannon. What an incredible job. And then, like I said, getting rid of Liberty, they were just that fly on top of the G5 potential auto bid, just swatting them away. They're done. Seeing the Myrtle Beach Bowl, guys, I've had it with Liberty. And I've said it with Jamie Chadwell. I don't understand why he took this job, why he fended off other job offers, why he wants to stay here. I still think he's a high-end coach. I think he's a brilliant offensive mind. There's got to be something in the water there in Lynchburg that's keeping him, but I won't belabor the point.
Yeah, for my hero of the week, I'm going to cheat like I tend to like to do here. I'm going with the entire MAC because we've been talking about it. The MAC is Mackey. You have Akron upsets Eastern Michigan, the only pick I got right last week. Shout out to the Zips. Then you got, I was on the wrong side of this one as well, but Ball State upsetting NIU in an insane finish. Northern Illinois took their first lead of the game with 15 seconds left, only for Ball State to go right down the field and kick the game-winning field goal. 13 seconds later, a 52-yard bomb. Breeze, we are in for such a treat. Of the 12 teams in the MAC, 8 of them are 5-3 or 4-4. This conference is such a beautiful cesspool of mediocrity, and it is the absolute best. Next Tuesday is going to be literal hell. Social media is going to be the worst place on earth. It's election night. It's the first college football playoff reveal. Our entire country might implode on Tuesday. Everyone is going to be arguing online. Everyone's going to hate each other. Everyone's going to be yelling at each other. And we all need to come together for the one thing that America agrees on. Midweek Maction starts next Tuesday, and it's not often that we look to the MAC to escape chaos. But here we are. So I'm telling everyone right now, next Tuesday, stay off social media, turn off your phone, pour yourself a stiff drink, and enjoy Bowling Green versus Central Michigan, America's Hero of the Week.
Yeah, if Harold Fannin was on a ticket, I would consider voting for him. Man, what an incredible tight end. I'm always rooting for the G5 guys to win major awards. It's really a two-man race for the Mackey. It's him and Warren from Penn State. But Warren, he should win the Paul Horning Award for most versatile player in the country. Forget about Travis Hunter. This guy plays 5 positions, right?
What's the award for best center in the country? Because only one's caught a touchdown this year.
Remington, yes.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Only one center has caught a touchdown pass.
All right, we go from G5 heroes into our best bets, and I hope that Brian Bohannon is basking in that G5 hero light, because I'm going to fade him right here immediately. Western laying 24. This is the situational dream spot. Kennesaw just got its season-defining win. Coaches, players overjoyed, crying, taking pictures on the field, like monumentous occasion.
Breeze, they stormed the field twice.
Yeah, exactly. They left it all on the field, quite literally. Fans, players, coaches, parents, everything. There's no bowl game in their future. There's no regular season Super Bowl to look forward to. And here we go. We got the toppers coming in. They're getting stronger by the day. Had Western not blown a 13-point lead in the fourth quarter against Boston College, they'd still be alive for that G5 auto bid. And I think they would have an argument just from a quality standpoint to say if everything broke right, if they had one loss, potentially to have them included in the conversation. You know, they played another Conference USA dreg in UTEP. They beat them by 27. They're up 20 at halftime. They outgained the Miners by 152 yards. They've looked great. Veldkamp has looked great. Elijah Young out of the backfield has been a consistent threat, which gives them a little bit more balance than they've had in recent years on the ground. And last week, let's just call it what it was. I feel good for Kennesaw. I'm glad that there's other football than Georgia Tech and Georgia State and Southern and UGA in the Peach State. But let's just call it what it is. It was a fluke. They're 119th in success rate. They're dead last in line yards and rushing success. They're 123rd in havoc allowed, 130th in quality drives. What that says to me is that in this case, if Western can just get the lead, get up by 2 scores, the Kennesaw offense is not made for this. They got a flat-footed, deflated Liberty team that was going through the motions. They got a lead, and then they were able to string together first downs and bleed the clock and make every defensive stop all that more meaningful. Against Western, I think Veldkamp's going to cook in this one. 24 points, I do not think is enough. I think they're going to win by 31-35 in this game. I think it's going to be sweat-free. I know you're never supposed to say that, but I'm going to put it out there. I love the toppers in this spot. I think they could be the class of Conference USA. There's some interesting options outside of the Hilltoppers and the Flames. We'll get to them in a second, but I really like what WKU is doing. What are your thoughts on them dropping the boom on Kennesaw in a solid situational spot?
Yeah, it's a terrible spot for Kennesaw. I think, the number probably got jumped up a little bit from beating Liberty. And I think, like you kind of said at the top, there's way more about Liberty than it was Kennesaw. I mean, we've seen it all season. Was it FIU hung with Liberty and then lost to UTEP the next week? Like, playing Liberty close, beating Liberty's not necessarily that good of a thing. And Western Kentucky's been like you said, they've been kind of humming since Veldkamp took over. So, yeah, I like it. They should be able to run it up here. For my best bet, I'm going to go with Memphis, -7 against UTSA. I think we're finally seeing the Memphis offense we expected coming into the year. They have 85 points in their last 2 games. The run game has really taken over 200 yards each of the last 2 games. Mario Anderson is running like a man possessed. He has 13 touchdowns in 8 games this year. He's averaging nearly 100 yards per game, 5.7 yards per carry. And this is a guy we talked about a lot preseason, who was South Carolina's leading rusher last season in the SEC. Now he's tearing up the American. Hennigan hasn't been as elite as we saw last season and kind of expected, but he still has 12 touchdowns, just 4 picks. He's still third in the conference in passing yards. So it's not like he's been bad. He's just not as explosive as maybe we expected. Receiver room still has a ton of talent. Rock Taylor, Demir Blankenship. Again, they're not as explosive as I'd like. They're not picking up the big plays, especially Blankenship. That's kind of his role. But they still have talent. They still have a deep offense that's very difficult to slow down. And defense has typically been Memphis's weakness for the last few years now. That's all we talk about. If their defense takes a step forward, they have. The defense is much, much better. They're 36th in the country in success rate, top 25 against the pass. Yeah, they got burned on the ground by Navy in that one game. And, obviously they played that shootout with North Texas that just got sideways. But other than that, they've pretty much shut down every other offense. If you take out the Navy and North Texas game, they've allowed just 11 points per game. So this defense has been good outside of those 2 weird games. And I think we see that version against UTSA. Their offense is terrible. They're 115th in the country in success rate. They've scored more than 28 points just 3 times all year. They cannot run the ball at all. They're averaging 3.5 yards per carry. I mentioned the strength of Memphis's defense is defending the pass with cornerbacks Greg Rubin, Davion Ross. So, UTSA has solid defensive numbers themselves, but look at the offenses they've played. They gave up 500 yards and 49 points to Texas State, 600 yards and 56 points to Texas. And then they played Kennesaw State, Houston Christian, ECU, Rice, FAU, and Tulsa. So yeah, their defense looks good. They also just gave up 46 points to Tulsa and a ridiculous comeback win. They gave up 39 points in the second half there. So if this defense gave up 300 yards and 5 touchdowns to Cooper Legas, Hennigan and Anderson should light up this defense. So give me Memphis -7. I think we're starting to see them kind of put it all together here.
Yeah, it was the biggest collapse in the G5 there. I think they were up 42-17 in that game. That was just that's a brutal gut punch for a season that was not going the way that's, a program that really has built up so much goodwill, stacking so many double-digit win seasons in the past, 5 to 6 years. That was a coaching staff that I really trust. I think at this point you got a bit of a white flag going up. It's a crazy thing to say about a Roadrunner team, but losing to a mid team like Tulsa, that puts wind in the Golden Hurricane sail. It takes it away from the Roadrunners. So I like that play a lot.
And it sucks too, because we love Traylor. We've talked about him every year. Why isn't he getting bigger jobs? Why isn't he getting, P5 jobs? He may have lost his window because, Dr. Frank Harris is now, a resident in some hospital, and this team is just bad. So yeah, it kind of sucks. We are Traylor guys, but give me Memphis.
It's time for the G5 High Five now. We're going to put together 5 picks, round robin it, parlay it, pick out your favorites, tack them on to anything else that you're playing in week 10. However you want to put these things together. We're just putting a menu together. It's not a tasting menu. It's a la carte. You can pick and choose. Ainella, you're doing the heavy lifting this week, and I appreciate that because, as I mentioned, it's a thin card with so many games off of the menu for us because of our recording time. So where are you going this week?
Yeah, the best way to avoid going over is just take as many shots as possible. You got to make one of them, right? And what better way to make one of them than give me the Huskies, baby. Give me UConn -7.5 Friday night against Georgia State. This would have been my best bet if the number didn't move above the key Monday night. I still like it, but it's not till Friday. Wait and see if that 7 pops again. But the handicap for me is simple here. Georgia State has looked terrible. They've lost 4 straight games, and they play a 5-3 UConn team looking to return to a bowl for the second time in 3 years under Jim Mora. The Huskies have won 5 of their last 7 games with a 5-point loss to Duke and a 3-point loss to Wake Forest. We know what UConn wants to do. They want to run the ball with their 3-headed monster, Darrell Robinson, Cam Edwards, Mel Brown. Robinson is averaging 7.6 yards per carry. He's been awesome. Now, I will say I do wish Joey Fagnano was playing quarterback. I like him a lot more than Nick Evers. It's probably going to be Evers again. But this team has a really good receiving room. They brought in a ton of good pieces from the portal that have all popped. Skylar Bell from Wisconsin, TJ Sheffield from Purdue. They brought in a kid from Akron. I really like the receiver room. Again, the quarterback situation is not great, but Evers is a Wisconsin transfer himself. He does have some talent. But the Huskies should move the ball on the ground all day against this Georgia State defense that is 118th in success rate. They're outside of the top 100 against both the rush and the pass, but they're way worse against the run. They're allowing more than 5 yards per carry on the ground. They have allowed teams to rush for over 200 yards in 4 of their 6 games against FBS teams. And when UConn does have success running the ball, they're going to score because Georgia State is dead last in the country at preventing finishing drives. They have allowed 26 trips to the red zone this season. 20 of them have ended in touchdowns. So it's not just like a field goal. They're scoring touchdowns here. And the UConn defense has been excellent this season. They're 14th in the country in success rate, 12th against the pass. They have not allowed more than 26 points in a game since week 1. UConn is much better than Georgia State at pretty much everything across the board. I like the Huskies to win by double digits on a beautiful Friday night in Hartford, Connecticut. Go Huskies.
Yeah, I was just looking up to see if there's any weather in your favor because it is in Hartford. Getting that weird road trip. It would have been nice if it was a little bit of rain. It looks like it's going to clear up after the morning. But an interesting play, and I think one that you've been doing a good job holding off on, picking your spots on the Huskies. It seems like they're back to being a well-coached team that has a very strong identity.
By the way, every win total that I got called stupid on in the preseason, I'm pretty sure is all cashed. UConn cashed, Old Dominion's cashed, or I think it's already cashed, or if not, it's going to. So Eastern Michigan, where you guys are, they have all these coin flip games. That's all Chris Creighton does is to win coin flip. Every over that I got shit on for has cashed. So you and Stuckey, Colin, all jokes on you.
Interesting time, in your cold streak to come out, unsheathing your sword, coming after me and Stuckey, but that's fine. Listen,
it's a
if
cold
that's what
October.
if that's what it takes for you to have enough, piss and vinegar to come out here and give us your best, I'm not going to
hold on
in
to
your
something, Calabrese. I'm clutching my futures tickets.
All right, let's look at a Sunbelt game here. I can't resist. I'm going to fade Marshall as a home favorite one more time because I just don't believe that they are 10.5 points better than the Warhawks of Louisiana Monroe. Against non-Texas teams, ULM has exceeded expectations time and time again this season. Then they go ahead and lay an egg against South Alabama. 3 turnovers in that game. They got killed on the ground, 355 yards, 6 rushing touchdowns. That's what this cap is about. It's about the run game. Marshall can really run it. No surprise there. They've been churning out backs from Rasheen Ali now into A.J. Turner. He's been the breakout star, the top 35 in success rate and line yards. But when you look at the other side of it, sometimes there's, you hear it in college basketball, teams that get press or that like to press opponents don't like to be pressed themselves. Sometimes when you go strength on strength, you have the exact same identity. You can kind of meet in the middle a little bit and make it a closer game. The Warhawks can run on this Marshall front. They're outside the top 100 in rushing success rate defense. Ahmad Hardy is one of the best freshman running backs in the entire country. He's gone over the century mark in 3 of his last 4 games. The Warhawks are 6th in rush rate, 21st in rush EPA. And then just comes down to the head coaches. As I mentioned with Huff, he's 7-10 against the spread as a home favorite since taking over in Huntington. I trust more in Brian Vincent. I think this is a stepping stone job for him. No offense to ULM. I know that they're very excited about it. The fact is they're going to go bowling this year. They've made a lot of noise in the Sun Belt kind of out of nowhere. One of the best coaching jobs in the entire country. Unfortunately for them, I think too good. I think he's probably going to at least have the right of refusal on the UAB job. I think they're going to just come hat in hand and say it should have been you the whole time. We'll see if he does the right thing and takes the job, or if he has an even bigger offer, maybe at the P4 level, because what he's done, he's turned water into wine with this Warhawks team. So I'm going to go ahead and take the 10.5 points here. I think they flirt with the outright upset. This Marshall team, if the game script doesn't go just right, their quarterback play leaves a lot to be desired. So I'm going to go ahead and take the dog and the points.
Yep, I had it on my cutting room floor as well. I'm also going to stay in the Sun Belt here. It's one I kind of teased to you a week ago. I'm going to take Coastal Carolina, Troy, under 54.5. I don't trust either of these offenses a lick. They both rank outside of the top 80 in success rate. Troy ranks 118th, 20 points per game. They have started 3 different quarterbacks this year. You talked about them a lot last week. Goose Crowder went down for the season with an injury. They've tried Tucker Kilcrease and Matthew Caldwell. Neither are good. Kilcrease got his first crack last week, but he got the first crack after Crowder. He completed just 55% of his passes. Caldwell then took over. He has 4 touchdowns, 6 interceptions on the year. He started last week and he threw for 300 yards, but he had 3 picks. Troy can't run the ball at all. They're averaging 3.7 yards per carry. They have 2 rushing scores in the last 4 weeks. Now don't get me wrong, the Trojans defense has been terrible too. They basically lost everyone from the Sun Belt championship teams. But I also have concerns about this Coastal offense. They've scored more than 28 points just once in the last 5 games. Coastal fired offensive coordinator Travis Trickett after their loss to Louisiana the last time out. And Tim Beck is taking over play calling. Listeners know I have never been a fan of Tim Beck. I just don't think he's a good offensive coordinator. His offenses at NC State, they just super underperformed the talent level I thought they had. They lacked explosiveness. They lacked creativity. If you watch their games, super predictable, run, pass, just nothing special. His teams at NC State, by the way, these are all like 10-win teams because they had good defenses. His teams at NC State ranked 74th, 58th, and 105th in total offense in his 3 years as offensive coordinator. And Coastal's offense this year has been super inconsistent all season. They ran the ball well against Louisiana, but they've done nothing on the ground before that. They've been held over 200 yards passing in 4 of their 7 games. Ethan Vasco really, really struggled. He was benched last game for Noah Kim. I assume Kim starts here, but Kim was terrible last year for Michigan State. He completed 57% of his passes, 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions before he was benched after 5 games. So he started the first 5 games. So 3 of them were against non-conference teams. And Coastal ranks 110th in explosiveness. So even if they are able to move the ball in this bad Trojans defense, it should be slow. It should be methodical. Both these teams play extremely slow paces. Coastal ranks 112th in pace. Troy ranks 115th. So I don't think the offenses are good, and they both play really slow. So I'll fade them both. Give me under 54.5.
Yeah, I was hoping that you bring up the pace. I think that I may have led with that if I was going under, because I do think that's the big element of it. It's
I like
using
my
up
best
the play
point to be
clock.
the last one.
Yeah.
The one that people remember.
I'm going to go flip this script here. I'm going to go with an over. Conference USA, 62.5, Jacksonville State, Liberty. The Cox haven't played a functional offense in 6 weeks, and the last one they played was Eastern Michigan, who dropped 37 points on their head. They also had Coastal, who you just laid out, not an impressive offense, fire their offense coordinator. Deshaun scored 55 on them in the opener. I mean, look at this scheduling run from an offensive opponent perspective. Southern Miss, they fired their head coach. Kennesaw, who's in the bottom in passing rush success rate, bottom 5 across the board. New Mexico State, who is a husk of their former self without Diego running around, and Middle Tennessee. Give me a break. A defensive regression is absolutely coming for Jacksonville State. They can be had on the ground, 114th in rushing success rate defense, bottom 10 in points per opportunity allowed. Meanwhile, offensively, when you flip it around, Tyler Huff has been playing like a Conference USA Player of the Year. His QBR in the past month is 83.1. He's done so much with his legs in those 4 games, 465 yards and 7 rushing touchdowns. We got one scorching offense and a team that plays at the 10th fastest tempo in the country. So that rich route offense, run up to the ball, just spam certain running plays and get Huff in the read game, the option game, get him on the perimeter, on the edge. He's making big things happen with his legs against a Liberty team that just got embarrassed. This is, the gut check time for them. They can still win Conference USA. They're going to have to win out to control their own destiny to get in, but it's got to happen right here. So if there's ever a chance to buy low on the Liberty offense that can still really run the ball, and as I pointed out, Jacksonville State, their defensive metrics are meh to begin with, but these offenses they played did not get them prepared to play a Liberty team that did play in the Fiesta Bowl. It's somewhere inside a lot of these offensive starters in Cooley, in Salter. Let's see if it happens. Both offenses, in my opinion, are capable of going for 40-plus in this game. So 62.5 is about 5 points short of my projection. That's why I have the over here.
Yeah, I like it. I'm pretty sure I saw something the other day. I was trying to double check it. I'm pretty sure Jacksonville State's the favorite to win the QSET sportsbooks now, which I thought was interesting over Western Kentucky. I like it. Speaking of, can we throw in a little bonus bet here? Are we, just for the vibes, are we riding Vandy +7 against Auburn? I mean, Diego, the Jerry Kill is the Hugh Freeze killer. Are we riding with the doors?
So I threw this out because Stuck was talking about it on the BCS episode, filling in for Brett.
Of course he was.
Diego's banged up, And maybe it's PTSD for me because we've had so many great moments with Diego, just throwing money at it, blindly bet him, particularly as a dog. When he was banged up in the bowl game, I want to say, or maybe it was the Conference USA title game, he just tried, he tried to gut it out, and it did not go well. He's one of those guys who, like, he's got the heart of a lion. I love that guy. Like, he's immortalized for me. He doesn't need to do a single thing more in his collegiate career, but sometimes it works against him, where it's like, maybe just go with a different offensive option if he really can't throw the ball, because he looked, I mean, beyond off against Texas, and it's because he's battling through injury. So that could be like a last second. I want to see the telecast. I want to see him warming up. I want to hear from him. I want to hear from the coaching staff.
That's a dial into a beat reporter on.
Yes,
taking
exactly.
a shot at warm ups. Like, all right, I'll probably just take it anyway, just for the vibes, or maybe a live bet after like the first series or something. All right, pivoting back to the G5 and not our graduated sons. This feels like a trap, so I'm hoping you'll tell me I'm right, or if I'm walking into the trap. Give me Colorado State -1.5 against Nevada. Colorado State has somehow gone from this like air raid passing attack to a team that runs the ball and plays defense and does little things, and it's working. I mean, they're 5-3 this year. They're 3-0 in Mountain West play. They may spoil all of our Boise UNLV rematches. And their only losses this year are to Texas, Colorado, and at Oregon State in double overtime. So nothing you can fault them for there. Fowler Nicolosi is averaging 100 less passing yards per game than last year. But the key is he only has 5 interceptions. This time last year, he had 11. So he has completely cut down that part of his game, which was his big issue. Now, obviously, they lost Torrey Horton for the year, which is devastating. But like I said, instead, they've just been running the ball really, really well with Avery Morrow and Justin Marshall. Morrow is averaging 6.3 yards per carry. He has over 100 yards in 4 of the last 5 games. This run game should have success against the Nevada defense that's 119th against the run. So if they continue to do that, I like this matchup for them. The Wolfpack, I mean, they just allowed 240 yards and 4 touchdowns to Hawaii last week. I know most of that was Shager, and Fowler Nicolosi is not really mobile. But they've now allowed 13 rushing touchdowns in the last 4 games, and not all of those were quarterbacks. So this Russian defense is not good. They're 133rd in the country in tackling grade at Pro Football Focus. Only one team in the country has been worse, so that's a huge issue against this team. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Nevada has just a ton of injury uncertainty. For starters, the Wolfpack can't throw the ball. They lean on the run with Savion Red, Patrick Garrow, and quarterback Brendan Lewis. Well, Lewis didn't play last week against Hawaii because he was injured. Now, he's going to play this week. He already said that. But who knows if he's 100%? And for a QB who averages 13 rushing attempts per game and is second on the team in rushing, not being 100% is a big deal. Now you turn to both of their running backs. Both hurt. Red left the game after 1 carry last week. Garrow got hurt after 2 carries. Major concern. I'm not finished. They lost their 2 tight ends. They lost 3 starting defensive linemen.
Heads are falling off. We got no jobs. We got no money.
They lost their starting tackle. They lost an edge rusher. They lost their second leading receiver. Now, again, I don't know. I'm sure half of them end up playing, half of them don't. I don't know, but there's just a lot of questions here. I already think Colorado State's the better team. So with all the injuries for the Wolfpack, I will happily take the Rams. I'm very confused by this number. That's why it scares me a lot, because I'm like, they're the better team I think they're the better team at full strength. With all the injury uncertainty, I don't think 1.5 makes a ton of sense. So I'm probably walking into a bear trap here, but give me Colorado State. Does this not make sense to you, or what are your thoughts here?
We all have these teams that were either a year early on or they break our heart. And last year I was waving the Clay Millen pennant and I was like, this team is going to threaten to win the Mountain West. And then they just did not show up, and they lost to Colorado in that crazy overtime game, and they just never got it back together. This year, everything is breaking in their direction. And I'll say this, I've been impressed by Choate's coaching job with the Wolfpack. I thought this was going to be a bottom 5 team, potentially, with the retreads at quarterback and the defensive issues. And I understood he came from this defensive background, but you can only make lemonade with certain ingredients. And did he even have that? He's proven me wrong. So we'll see. But I agree with the injury issues. The only play that you could make an argument, which you just did very succinctly, is Colorado State. I can't advocate with the information on hand to take the Wolfpack, but this is a stay away from me just because the Rams have broken my heart. I was all rammed up. I got multiple Ram Colorado State sweatshirts and T-shirts in my closet. When am I going to wear these? I mean, college basketball season's coming back, I guess.
You
But
can
yeah,
wear them Saturday for me.
that's right. You know what? I like that. It's all about the vibes. It's all about the energy. It's about some team wins. All right, let's close it out with something that we started out hot this season. I think we started like 5-1 in the segment for the Moneyline Underdog Parlay. I'm going to go with a little coach that you probably have not heard me talk about too much in terms of fading. Just kidding. Trent Dilfer, you hear your name? Come on down, Trent. I want to talk about you real quick. Tulsa comes in. They've won 3 games on the season. Now, they just orchestrated the biggest comeback in college football to date for this 2024 season. And when you look at the rest of their schedule, they got 3 wins. They got UAB, ECU, South Florida, and FAU left. That, to me, says in their locker room, there's a real opportunity to get to bowl eligibility. So no white flag for them. They can get to 6 if everything breaks right. For UAB, they've lost 6 straight. None by single digits. It's all been going away. Offenses, are just picking them apart. Their own offense remains inconsistent. I did watch a little bit of the Trent Dilfer presser from this week. I've really cut down on my consumption because it's basically the Simpsons meme where it's like, stop, he's already dead. Like, he's so sad when he gets up there. But I did listen long enough for him to rule out Jacob Zeno. That's all I wanted to hear. And for all of his foibles, he's just a straight shooter on player availability. I don't know why. There's so many coaches around the country. Like, you could waterboard James Franklin. He's not telling you who's playing Aller or his, Bo knows as his backup. Who knows up in Happy Valley? But in terms of UAB, I know it's no Zeno. And when you look at what they do in terms of protecting the passer, they haven't. They're 122nd in havoc there. So I think there's some serious issues for the Blazers keeping up here because their defense is just going to get cooked in this game. They can't tackle. They can't stick in coverage. They can't generate havoc of their own. They're 131st there, somehow even worse than what their offense allows. And as I mentioned, Tulsa just dropped 46 on the Roadrunners. They're down 42-17. They give Francis the hook. They bring in Cooper Lega, 333 yards, 5 touchdowns, and a massive breakout game for Camden Benjamin. I think that's the player who's going to eat up this UAB secondary. I think they're going to win this one outright. I'm shocked that the Blazers are favored on their home field. Like, that's going to be any, serious home field advantage. Just get UAB a new coach. Just bring him in right now. Figure out a way to fire Trent, maybe at midfield of this game, just a little cherry on top for me. But I think the wrong team's favored here. I'll take advantage, whatever the number is, from plus 100 north of that. Let's go with the Golden Hurricane. I think that's the play for Moneyline Underdog upset.
God damn it. I was hoping I'd get to go first. Yeah, I had the same one. I'm going to pivot in a second because I know our listeners hate it. We don't give them to. So I'm going to think of one on the fly. But I did want to just mention, because you said it, they've been playing this 2-quarterback game. I've obviously bet Tulsa, I think I'm over 3 on them this year. So I'm glad. Maybe it's good you took it instead of me. With Kirk Francis and Lega being the runner. Well, Lega ended up throwing the ball better than we saw from Francis.
And Lega had plenty of his moments at Utah State. He was one of those Terrell Vaughns down there somewhere situations. He used to just bomb the ball down there.
If I remember correctly, Lega, he came onto the scene in the bowl game against, it was the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl. Who they play? They played like a Pac-12 team, and he
was it Oregon State? I want to say.
Yeah, I think, and he torched them. And then the following year, he was one of those guys where he did some weeks where he looked unbelievable, and then looked horrible. Some weeks he was very hot and cold. But he now has 6 passing touchdowns on 48 attempts. Francis has 7 on 212 attempts. I was trying to find if Lega has to start this game, right? I haven't.
Yeah, of course. Lega is going to be the guy here.
Yeah, and I think his dual threat ability, I think, gives them a lot more upside, especially against the UAB team that's horrific against the run. You get it. He's the much better runner. He's third on the team in rushing, despite being the backup quarterback. So having him running the ball against this UAB defense that's horrific against the run, has struggled against the mobile quarterbacks. Him and Anthony Watkins should both eat on the ground. And yeah, you mentioned it. The check down merchant's hurt. Jalen Kitten has been bad. 4 touchdowns, 6 picks. They've lost by double digits in all his starts. And, sure, UAB's coming off a bye here, but do we think giving Trent Dilfer more time to think is a good thing? Because, the last time they had a bye, they came off and got dump trucked by Navy. So, Tulsa, we mentioned, they're coming off that big emotional win against UTSA. sometimes that can be a letdown spot, but I actually think they just ride the momentum here. I think that gives them, especially with the quarterback change, I actually think they ride the momentum here. They're coming in with a lot of confidence. They're all excited, happy, hyped up. And again, you're giving Trent Dilfer a week to think about his decisions. Good luck. I'm going to pivot here if everyone's going to groan when I say this name. So don't blame me. Blame Calabrese for taking Tulsa first. Let's go with Wyoming. +8. I don't know what the money line is against New Mexico. Look, I was very, very wrong.
I mean, first of all, let me hop in. Congratulate you on your bravery for going with this. But number two, immediately, I mean, this is like the podcast of injury availability. If Luke Wysong is not going for the Lobos,
He's in a boot.
This offense is kind of broken. Like, seriously broken?
He was in a boot after he left at like halftime. Came back in a boot. Never a good sign. You don't put a boot on for nothing. And I know, look, I was dead wrong about Wyoming. We can go scrape the Josh Allen Jr. comparisons. Sabota, he ain't that guy. He ain't that guy. They switched to Caden Anderson over the last 2 weeks, San Jose State and Utah State. They get the win against Utah State. Anderson came in, nothing special, but 15 to 24, 182 yards, didn't throw a pick. They've really gotten the running game going recently with Scott. And Harrison Whaley's back this week, which is huge because he missed the first half of the season nursing an injury, then decided to just save it, wait for the last 4 games to preserve his red shirt. That starts this week. He's back. He's rested. I think he probably could have played a few weeks ago, but wanted to keep the red shirt. I expect him to come out here full steam ahead, 100% ready to go. Like I said, Scott's been running the ball well also, so now they have a two-headed monster. They've made the switch to Anderson. All he has to do is protect the ball. And then you mentioned the Wysong really hurts the New Mexico passing attack. Obviously, we still love Dampier. He's still going to get his. But it just makes them even more one-dimensional. We saw them struggle last week. They had, 6 points? Now, that was a weird game. They had 450 yards in offense, but they were terrible in the red zone. So hopefully that happens to them again. I think New Mexico is just kind of a volatile team. I'll take the variance with Wyoming with the new quarterback, Whaley coming back. Hope it gives them some juice. Plus 240. That's a pretty juicy number. I had +8 on the cutting room floor. I'll pivot, go money line. Give me the Cowboys here.
This week, if you've been dialing up our BBOC YouTube channel, you know that we've been doing the playoff update. There's not going to be an update video this week, so we're going to tag this on to the end of the episode. Just give me who you think's going to take it all the way. I'll start. I think this is Boise's to lose. Not only do they have Jency, who gutted out. That was a really phenomenal performance by him. He was clearly injured, and he still was able to go for, I think, over 130 on the ground, a touchdown. He had another touchdown called back. But it was everybody else. It was a team effort. Quarterback play with Madsen. He impressed me when he had opportunities. He connected. Even his incompletions, he did not put the ball in harm's way. He had a long rush that really broke the UNLV defense's back as well. And then when you look at their defense, everything is about what are you bringing to the table that's special from the G5 to potentially not just get to the playoff, but upset somebody in potentially a 12-5 matchup. This defense just gets home left and right. They have an opportunity to finish the year with the highest sack rate in NCAA history. They started scoring this in 2000 when the sack became an official stat by the NCAA. They're over 12% of dropbacks they're getting to the quarterback, and a big reason for that is their defensive backs. Their DBs alone have 9.5 sacks this year. That's more than Iowa State has as an entire team. So it's not just scheme. It's these guys actually know how to blitz. So I'm really impressed with what they've been able to do on both sides of the ball. You got Dalmas as their kicker. I got to come up with a better nickname for him other than the thicker kicker. He's got a nice little pooch up front. It's where he keeps his little extra cookies, but he's been incredibly clutch. If it comes down to a field goal late, I feel good about their special teams. And I mentioned it on the BCS episode. If you're looking for some value, you're late to the Boise party. How about taking Boise to win the Mountain West Conference and Georgia to win the SEC? Pays almost 4-1 on that parlay. I think that is criminally mispriced because I really like both teams where they're headed down the stretch here.
The thicker kicker was Joey Julius. Remember him at Penn State? Big number 99.
Yeah.
Big toe Joe. Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's Boise, but just for sake of argument, because that's boring, and also they're minus 195, so it's not betting. If I had to pick someone other than Boise, we talked about him earlier. Give me Memphis. I think, we just saw Navy get dump trucked by Notre Dame, which certainly doesn't give me much confidence in Army winning that game. Memphis gets to play Tulane at the end of the year, and they'll get their chance at one of the service academies, most likely in the They already lost to Navy, so they'll probably get, they probably need it to be Army because then Navy would have the tiebreaker. But Memphis gets to that conference title game. I think we've seen enough from their offense and their defense has improved. Yeah, I would go with Memphis here. They're plus 600. They'd be my pick if it wasn't Boise, but like I think it's Boise's to lose at this point. So, but give me the Memphis as well.
For Mike Iannella, I'm Mike Calabrese. This has been the Group of Five Deep Dive under the BBOC banner. Keep on your podcast feed because we are updating all of the usual hit list items this week. Colin and Stuck running through their entire Week 10 card from the trash all the way up to the marquee matchups. And then on Saturday, Johnny Football and Brett McMurphy join Colin, Stuck, and myself on the live show to give you all the last-minute updates, weather, situational spots, everything you need to know to make a lot of money on Saturday. Stuck had been running hot there in the past month. Hopefully we can all get onto his level.
This is my month. This is my month. November is my month. We're starting November 1st, Friday night, UConn Huskies. New month, new Mike.
You heard it here first. All right. For Mike Iannella, I'm Mike Calabrese. Thanks again for listening. And a reminder, keep shooting us those 5-star reviews. It all plays a big part in terms of our exposure, our opportunities to grow the brand, and I'll be happy to hand out a $10 parlay for the next 5-star review. Say whatever you want. Take some shots at us. Take some shots at the big guys, Colin and Stuck, as well. Whatever you want to do, 5-star reviews only. All right, that's it for us. Thanks so much for listening.